guys, firstly, just a big thank you to Connor and Mike for inviting me back. I actually live down the road in Ashted. And do we have any parents in the room? Any mums and dads? Here's a top tip. Don't bring a toddler or a newborn to a chiropractic session because they don't sleep. So my little one is over there. Mike is actually godfather to my eldest. So it's really special for me to come down and support the Lions and, hopefully just share a few little things that I feel quite passionately about, but also that can genuinely help you guys, whatever the stage in your career that you're in, whatever the stage in life that you're in. Financial planning is something that I feel incredibly passionate about. I also think it's just really helpful in general life because I don't often talk about it. And being typically English or British, and I'm sure we've got quite a few South Africans in the room because any shout out for the South Africans. Yeah, there you go. Check Sky Sports News, just find out what the cricket score is. Yeah. I'm only joking. So I just think it's so important to get organized with money. And in life, you take great care in terms of looking after your patients and helping them on a course of action to improve their world. That's exactly what I do. It's just simply listening to what's important. Where do you want to be in life? How does money interact with that? And then helping you get a plan. So you'll see my kind of big tagline is you only have one life. Live it, plan for it. And I think, we've seen in the last couple of days, just with the passing of dear Queen Elizabeth, what a hero she was. You only get one chance at this. So money is something that's incredibly important. And if we can help you to maximize what you've got and help you plan for the future, for me, that can only be a positive thing. And that's my job. So look, in terms of a quick introduction, my name is Tom Grunsell. I am what's called an independent financial advisor, and I run my own business, so I'm self-employed. I run my business through a company called Westminster Wealth Management. So we're based in Fleet Street. There's 50 advisors similar to myself. We've got a mortgage team with completely independent. And for me, it's being able to have flexibility to work with the clients that I want to work with. I've worked closely with Connor and with Mike and with a number of chiropractors for a long time. So I understand what it's like for you guys to be, whether you're an associate working in a practice, whether you're a practice owner, just how the different complexities of the chiropractic world almost interact with each other. So that's a little bit about me, and please guys, feel free to pick my brains after today, drop me an email, pick up the phone if there's anything you want to know about me personally. I'm a father of two. I live in Ashted, and I love it. I love what I do. So I had a chat with Connor, how many months ago? Probably back in the summer. Just about what we wanted to go through today. And I've done several different presentations for the Lions, from a big kind of death by PowerPoint, loads of stats and graphs. And actually, what I want to do today is just a live demonstration of what I would do in a meeting. And for me, I'm quite a big picture visual person. Although I like numbers, I like figures, I like graphs, I actually love pictures because I find it helps me to understand and learn. And when I'm talking to a client about what does the future look like, I like to be able to show you something. You can say, look, if we've got something tangible where we can say, Tom, this is what I want, how are we going to get there? I want to be able to show you how we're going to do that. So we're going to go through a little demonstration, and we'll ask Connor to kind of be my dummy. So Connor, I'm going to ask you to come up in a second if that's all right. But today we're going to go through a live demonstration of some cash flow modeling. Any kind of number bods in there, it's awesome. We can dive really deep down into some figures and some numbers and some tax. Or if you're a visual high level person, we can just look at some cool pictures and go, actually, wow, that's powerful. That's how I'm going to pay off my mortgage, or actually that's how I'm going to get to retirement. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I want to get you guys thinking about your personal and your business financial affairs. What is it that you want? Yes, we want to help out your patients with, their health affairs, but for you personally, actually, where do you want to be in life, and how important is money in order for you to achieve that, whether that be saving up to buy your first home, whether that be remortgaging, whether that be buying a new practice. My job as a financial advisor is to help you with those goals. And then I want to be able to give you the confidence that either you can go away after today and have a think about doing it yourself, or you can pick up the phone and you can have a little chat with me. And that's really the objective today. And I think I've got about half an hour in order to do it. So I'm not going to be able to go full fat version of financial planning, but we should be able to kind of touch the surfaces. What I thought would be useful is just put some visuals out there for what a financial advisor actually does. Now, I was very lucky enough in my previous role. I spent 10 years at a company called St. James's Place Wealth Management, and I was part of a mentoring program with a chap called Carl Richards. So if you ever want to Google a really cool guy to follow on LinkedIn or read an interesting book and you want to get a grip on your personal finances, a chap called Carl Richards is awesome. He's got 2 books. One is called The Behavior Gap and the other is called The One-Page Financial Plan. Really well worth doing. But Carl works off kind of little graphics, and I just think this is really powerful. Things that matter to you, things that you control. Well, actually, in the middle, that's what we should be focusing on, and that's the type of things you should be talking about with a financial advisor, with your mentor, with your coach, whoever that may be, in order to help you to get there. And that's what I do. What does a financial advisor do? Well, really quite simple. Talk about your financial goals. We create a plan and a strategy on how to do that. And I love cash flow modeling. So we create an actual model, a visual to kind of say, okay, well, this is how we're going to do it, Mr. Client. All you got to do is meet the assumptions that we've plugged into this computer software program, and you should, in theory, get to this point in your life. Then we commit to that strategy. So whether that's an investment plan, whether that's a savings model, whether that's paying off a mortgage, whatever that may be, whether that's working on your business, in terms of setting a practice, whether that's hiring your associates, whatever that may be. And then it's repeating it until we get to the point where we've reached that goal. And it's actually really quite basic when you think about it. So has anyone come across Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of psychology stuff? For me, financial planning should meet that. So it's what is really important. The first thing that we should be doing is making sure you've got enough cash in the bank to give you security. Then we should make sure we protect you. So thinking about things like insurances, which sound really boring, and they are, but they're really important. Then we start talking about creating that plan, saving some money, and then we get on to, at the top, probably the least important, but the things that we almost want to talk about is the investment strategy. And I just think this was a really nice visual that I put together for today. What are your goals? How much money do I need? How much risk can I take? If anyone has any investments at the moment, you'll probably see they're super volatile. The stock market is going up and down, left, right, and center. We've got so much going on that actually taking the right amount of risk is just so important. Then going, okay, well, where should I invest my money? What type of support do you want? Whether you talk to somebody like me, whether you do it yourself, there's loads of resources online. And then it's just creating that plan. And I just thought this was quite a nice visual just to kind of leave with you today on, okay, well, what do we do? What should my first kind of thought process be? And again, Connor, I don't know if but I'm very happy for you to distribute these slides after, because I just think they're quite cool little visuals. So look, this is what we're going to go through today. So this is a computer software program called Voyant. So it's something that I invest into. Voyant is a cash flow forecasting system, and we're going to play around in it a sec with a dummy client called Connor Smith in a second. Where we look at, right, what have we got? What do we want? Okay, well, if we continue on the lifestyle that we're in and the strategy that we've got now, this is where you're going to be in the future. And off the back of that, we can then change and have a little play around. So we're going to go through this little model. So Connor, can I get you to come up? And we're just going to kind of dive in, if that's cool. Cool. So here we go. Cool. So, guys, this is a typical what I would do in a first meeting with a client. And look, Connor has gone through this personally. So, Connor, when you and I did this for real, Connor Ward, not Connor Smith, how did you find it?
Enlightening. So, I mean, part of the reason why we continue to have Tom back is because from many of the chiropractors I coach, like there are certain challenges of being a self-employed practitioner, and there are certain goals that each chiropractor generally has, like opening their own practice, buying their house. So some of that decision making needs some planning. And like for me, I was like, I wish I did this 10 years. I did the classic patient thing. I wish somebody told me about this 10 years ago, right? And that's why I've got my brother already starting to look at it, because he's 10 years younger than me. So he's going to be much richer than me when he gets to this stage, because he's got someone like Tom in his corner.
Where's your brother?
Just there.
There's your...
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason we did this visual on stages here, because I think this is the most powerful thing.
Cool. So, guys, what we're looking at is just a real simple timeline. Okay. So, let's run a scenario through that Connor and I have had a little chat, and Connor said, look, Tom, I want to take some financial advice. So I just want to kind of map out a bit of a plan. So Connor, just explain to me, and guys, just so you're aware, what I've done, Connor, if you can please play the client, you're 33 years old and your name is Connor Smith. Right.
33 years old.
Rounded you down.
Rounded me
Just
down.
for the sake of the room, okay? People don't know that. And you're married to Bridget.
Bridget.
Okay.
Oh, geez, don't tell Dom.
Don't here, by the way.
Dom's not here.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Don't tell her about
I know what I can and cannot say then. Cool. So, Connor, just talk to me about a few goals that we want to use Buoyant for today to try and map out.
Well, I'm in practice. Me and Bridget are thinking about buying our first home together.
Okay.
We're going to move over to Essex. I love the only way is Essex, right?
So when are we going to do that? So let's put this on the plan. So what we're going to do is just use a simple timeline, right? To just say, okay, well, here's a marker in the sand for when do we want to do that. Okay. So from a financial standpoint, in order to buy a house, we've got to put down a deposit. We're probably going to, unless you've got a significant amount of money, we may need a mortgage in order to do that. So we've got a marker that we know, right, Tom, for me and Bridget, right? To move to Essex, we need this, but this is when I really want to do it. Okay, so in order for me as the advisor to give you really good advice, I've got to make sure that I get this spot on. So in an ideal world, when do we want to do it?
I'm 33 now, so I guess by the time I'm 35, 2 years.
Nice. So here we go. So as you can see now, we've now got something quite cool where we can play around with this. All we've got is just a simple marker saying, okay, I put in an event into a cash flow model, say, Tom, I really want to buy a house in 2 years' time. Cool. Anything else that's really important to you?
Well, then I want to open my clinic. We've been moving to Essex, so I can't commute to Windsor anymore.
Nice. Okay. So let's put that in as
business.
Let's just call it, start a, there you go, start a business, new clinic in Essex. Cool. And we're going to do that the same year that we move?
Yeah, why not? Really hype up the stress.
Okay.
Get my polyvagal really working. Oh, maybe
yeah.
And then I've got
and get divorced a year later. Yeah. We can model that as well, don't worry. Okay, cool. So right, so far we've moved house,
start a business,
and we're going to start a business, or this is what we're aspiring to do. If we were to look a little further, so I would class a short-term event within 5 years. Okay. Medium term, typically as a financial advisor, we talk about 5 to 15 years, and then your longer term planning. Typically for me, we're talking about retirement and pensions and all things sexy like that. Is probably 15 years in advance. Anything kind of after 35 that's really important to you?
By 45, I want to buy a holiday home in Costa Rica.
Okay,
Moving next door to my friends over here.
very cool. Okay, so we're going to go holiday home, Costa Rica. Wicked. And we're going to do that. When are we doing that? By 45?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. When do you want to retire? So if we think about what retirement means, it doesn't necessarily mean access your pension and put your slippers on. I want you to start thinking about when's the point in life where you don't want to have to work. Work is now a choice.
Well, let's say 60. Although I'll never stop adjusting, obviously, just ever. FYI.
Are you going to retire with Bridget?
I hope so. If she doesn't leave me after the house move.
Yeah. All right. This is move to Costa Rica. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's put in the plan. You and Bridget retire at the same year.
Yeah.
Go off into the sunset.
Lovely.
Okay. Nice. So let's now. What we're going to do is build what's called your base plan. So this is the now. Okay. And guys, just for the purpose of today, obviously we are using a dummy client. So these are.
I'm a proper dummy.
These are not. No comment. Cool. So kind of fire me some details. So when we talked about it, you're currently employed.
Self-employed.
Self-employed.
Yeah.
Okay. With a salary of 50K.
50K. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Brill. And I've said that Bridget's also in there. So you're currently married, by the way. Bridget works for Westminster Wealth, employed on 30.
Nice.
Okay.
You give her a bonus, all right?
Never said she was working for me. I'd pay her a lot more. Cool. So if we look at this, we can kind of see and say, right, well, okay, we've got some income coming into the plan of £80,000. So these big blue markers that we see, okay, in this model, if we can see these up here, are blocks of income that we've modeled into the plan. So the dark blue is income, okay? When we look at the expenses, okay, this is some tax, okay? So in theory, now, when we fast forward it one more year, we've got some payment on account. Now all of a sudden we've got 2 lots of taxes. So on a salary of £80,000, and you'll see that these lines go up, and I've just adjusted it with inflation, okay?
Should be going down now.
Well, yeah. So I've used a model inflation rate of 2.5%. Now, a lot of people in the room will go, Tom, that's our current inflation rate is probably around about 9.8, which is true. But I think there's a long-term outlook. If we just use a modeling of 2%, again, we can change anything. So you'll see that the income is going up with inflation. So we're assuming, unfortunately, Connor, you never get a pay rise unless we want to model it. And again, we might want to do that in the session. Okay. So at the moment, the only expense that we've got, okay, is some tax. Okay. Now, talk to me about what you spend your money on.
Bridget has a Amazon addiction. Yep. We have boxes of all sorts coming every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's call this this is Bridget, right? Let's really stitch her up because she's not here. All right. Okay, how much does Bridget spend per month on Amazon?
300, 500, say 300, 500.
Cool. So £300 a month, Bridget is spending. Nice. So now we can see we've got this little black line in here. Now that black line is your tax and Bridget's Amazon addiction. Okay. Connor, talk to me about lifestyle. So things that we definitely need. So essentials. So I'm thinking currently rent. Yeah, because you haven't bought a place yet. Okay. And bills and food.
Okay. So rent 1,500. I'm a chiropractor, so I only eat organic, free range. Cool. So that's pricey.
So rent is 1,500.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and then say food and expenses another 1,500 between both of us. Cool.
Thank you very much. food.
Cheap rent. Yeah. Squatting.
No wonder they keep coming back to me. The plan looks amazing. This is why I never do a live demonstration, by the way. Like, okay, cool. So food bills.
£3,000 or 1,500 per month.
No.
So
Cool. Okay. And let's just quickly change rent as the expense in here. Okay. So now this is evolving a little bit. This is getting fun, right? So we can now see this big red line, okay, is what I have nightmares about. So this indicates now, because we haven't told the computer program, okay, that Connor is saving any money, okay, we told the program that you want to retire age 60. So at age 60, you have no money. So this is the amount of money. This is your shortfall that you need to, if you continue to have rent at 1,500 quid, food bills, etc., again, another 1,500. Okay. And we're still allowing Bridget to have her Amazon addiction, okay, for the rest of her life. Talk to me about, do you go on holiday?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Typical holiday expense per year.
£2,000.
Annually.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that that's a luxury.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Brilliant. Okay, so we can see here, we've now got an idea of roughly how much Connor and Bridget should be able to save right now. Okay. And again, we've got some markers in the sand for how your world might change. Okay. Now, let's put in some things that we would hope for the future. So, assuming our dear government stays exactly the same, hopefully we still get a state pension, okay, which means that we need to keep paying into our national insurance contributions, and we'll get some money from the government for paying tax in the UK. Okay. Anyone got any idea how much you'll receive in state pension? So we had £100 a month and then £9,000 a year. Okay. It's about 8.5K a year, roughly. Right. So let's assume, Connor, you get 8.5K, and so does Bridget. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the nuances that you work through.
So just okay, so brilliant question. So let's assume that you have something called the lower earnings limit. So if you speak with your accountant, typically an accountant will say, right, I don't want you to pay very much tax, right? Which is brilliant. No, we shout it from the rooftops. We don't want to pay any tax, right? Ideally, we want to be as tax efficient as possible. So as a director of a limited company, okay, so for the practice owners or even for the self-employed people in the room, okay, again, chat with an accountant, or you might want to work with somebody like me. I would typically work with an accountant to say, brilliant, I'm advising Connor this. The accountant says, I agree with you, brilliant, we're on the same hymn sheet. Normally, okay, you would pay yourself what's called the lower earnings limit, okay, which is just under £10,000, which means that you qualify for state pension benefit, but you don't pay any employer or employee national insurance. So again, brilliant. And then we would typically pay yourself, if you need a bit more money, which obviously you're going to do, you'd pay yourself via a dividend. Okay. Advantages of paying yourself an income is you can offset that from corporation tax. Dividends, we can't. So again, it's a bit of a, what is the amount of money that we need? And then I would typically work backwards. Okay. But in this scenario, let's just say that you're a sole trader and you're paying yourself an income, because that's probably the easiest thing for this demonstration.
And you can see now, students, how a bit more complex than just like what comes into your bank account. And that's the way I operated probably for the first 5 to 7 years of practice. And if I had started thinking about this sooner, I've been, because of the compound effect of saving, I'd be much more better off than what I am now. So that's why it's important to understand or start to think about these things when you get into practice.
So what we're looking at now is we've got a new color into the mix. Okay. So all of a sudden we've got this dark blue line, which represents the state pension income. Okay. Now, again, we have only told Voyant that you get state pension. Okay. So Connor, right now, unless we do anything, I'm assuming that Bridget spends everything.
Okay.
She tells you about the Amazon, but she doesn't tell you about anything else. Okay. So at this point, if we do nothing up until age 60, we've got this big shortfall, which is the red. Okay. So we could, real high level, back of the fag packet stuff, go, right, Connor, actually, how much do I need to save into a pension to retire? Okay. Now, again, let's just caveat this that we're talking to a 33-year-old, a pension is a long time away. But it just gets you thinking from a longer term point of view what you need. And we can then model that. So we can say, right, an annual saving for Connor to retire age 60, assuming that he's got full state pension benefit, we need to save £32,000 a year. Okay. To have the same expenditure in retirement that you do now, unless we change that. Okay. And that's as a household. So that's between you and Bridget. Now, if we paid all of that into a pension, we would get some nice tax breaks.
Yeah.
Okay. But Connor's a sensible person. He's come to see Tom, and we're going to do some financial planning. So we're going to try and bring this number down. Okay. So tell me a little bit about how you think your world is going to change from a professional point of view. So let's try and tailor this now to a typical chiro.
Yeah. Well, when I open my own practice, I anticipate having other people working for me, and I think that my income will significantly improve because I'm going to go through Connor and Mike's coaching programs to learn all of us how to be really good at practice. And so I'm going to be really busy.
Yep.
And I'm going to, put into practice everything that Mo and Mac taught me. So I'm going to get fantastic results with my patients. They're going to tell everybody about me. I'm going to be the best chiropractor in the county.
Yeah.
And so I think my income will triple.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to model that. So we put a marker in the sand for when Connor's going to alter his income, starting his new practice. So we're now all of a sudden, either we could keep this the same and we could add in a new income, or we can try and go right from here. Okay, let's say, for example, we're going to increase his earnings. So Connor, from 2 years' time, you have smashed it, right? We've gone from 50 grand to 150, okay? And we're going to have that start, that stepped income, age 35, and that's going to continue until Connor retires here, okay?
Good.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. So again, if we now come back to visually, what does that look like? Boom, we can now see that visual impact of Connor's income increasing. So this now means our tax bill has gone up. Okay, so again, when we look at from a modeling point of view and we look at his expenses, okay, we can see a bigger amount in terms of income tax. Okay, but so if we can't scroll on to this year when all of a sudden our income has come in, our cash flow into the family is 192,000, and the expenses, okay, has now gone to 114. So Connor now has this nice little budget of 78 grand per year surplus for him to do something with. And Connor has told me that you want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is now where we might want to model and say, okay, well, what am I going to do with that money? And again, we then begin to look at some mortgage planning. We then begin to look at and saying, okay, well, my mortgage costs would probably, because again, 1,500 quid is not a small amount of money to pay on rent, but we're going to change that. Okay, so again, we might want to model, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm actually not going to do that now, but just gives you an idea and a flavour on how we can change that plan.
And then kids come into it, private school if you want to do that, and then you have no money.
And then you get divorced and they take it. You have a midlife crisis and bring your child to a chiropractic seminar and it all goes wrong. But look, you can see the idea and the makeup. So all of a sudden now with Connor's plan, he's got the tools to work with a financial advisor to say, well, Tom, what do I do with this money? Because if I don't do anything and I just either put the money in a bank account, right now, the interest that you're going to get on your cash saving is pretty poor, pretty minimal. Okay, we've got high inflation, which is poor for people with lots of cash. We've got this tricky world that actually, do we invest money and take a bit of risk? Again, yes, the textbook should be, but again, I've got to make sure that you're comfortable with it. So it's asking the right questions as a financial advisor to then tie in, Connor, with yours and Bridget's life. Keep on hand to say, Dom. But then also with your business, you know, because again, Connor may want to invest some of that money into the business plan. Okay, and again, we can model that into something like a cash flow modeling program and just begin to look at it.
And I think the thing is as well that, and this is something that I've done in the past year with Tom, is actually looking at where the money I'm putting into my pension pot is actually going. So previously, I hadn't really thought about it, but then when I looked at it, a large proportion of the money I put in my pension fund would have been going into pharmaceuticals, would have been going into businesses that aren't in line with Mike and my vision of like doing the most good, you know? So we talked about changing up my investment portfolio to invest in more green companies, more proactive companies, green energy, looking at companies that aren't testing on animals, that aren't, investing heavily in pharmaceuticals. I'm having that level of autonomy about how my money that I'm putting aside is actually being used. For me, was probably one of the most powerful things that I managed to do with that pension pot.
Yeah, Connor, do you mind if I share with the room? Connor and I had a really interesting session with Dom. So with Connor's fiance. Second one, yeah, no. Bridget doesn't know about this, but Dom does. You know, just about, well, yes, we've done the financial planning, but then we begin to deep dive into, okay, well, what do we want to actually physically invest in? How much risk do we want to take? What does that mean in terms of performance expectations? You know, because again, investing money is not easy. It's not simple. It comes with risk. If you're going to work with me, there will be a point in time in the future where your money is going to go down. I can pretty much guarantee that. But my job is to educate you to say, okay, well, what should you do when that happens? Okay, in theory, hopefully, macroeconomics indicates that if we invest for the right time horizon, you should be in a better position when you start this. Okay. Being an independent financial advisor means that we have access to any instrument, any products, as long as we can put it onto a platform that's going to be appropriate. And that's what it looks like. And that's my job. Connor, anything for you, bearing in mind I make it 2:44, and I know we overran slightly, but from a cash flow modeling point of view, anything that you think for the group here today that they might want to look at or maybe use a cash flow model as an example?
Well, the reason we have done this and the reason why I said we've invited Tom back is because I think the financial side, I think as chiropractors, we get into chiropractic mainly because we want to help people. We don't like earning a lot of money is kind of like a nice bonus of being a really successful chiropractor. In my experience with coaching people and just even with some of my friends, and certainly I include myself in this, I didn't have enough financial wisdom to know, I'm like, oh, put it in cryptocurrency. Oh, but like this guy is a professional and knows how to invest. It's like somebody who comes to see us and said, yeah, I was looking at YouTube videos of how to crack yourself, and then I thought I'd try the real thing, That's what it felt like. And so for any of you who is at that stage where you're starting to make plans for the next few years, or you've got to a point where you're enjoying a certain amount of success in practice, you're earning more than you are spending, and you don't know how to invest that money wisely, then that's why, we think Tom's the right person to chat to. And because he's worked with so many chiropractors now, and including me and Mike, he understands the challenges we have as small businesses, CEOs who are then trying to manage family life and practice life around that. And so rather than going to somebody who is more of a generalist, we want you to go to somebody who's a specialist and is able to help you in the right way.
Great. So, look, almost as a summary, and guys, please feel free if there's any kind of burning questions in the room. Colin, do we have another couple of minutes? Does anyone have any questions while we're here? Absolutely. I mean, anything that we can model, that we can show. Voyance is brilliant. I mean, this was a
It's 2 hours for us to do it.
Yeah, this is a snippet of what it can do. But realistically, Voyant is designed to say, okay, well, what have you got? How do we input that into this so you can visually see from an output point of view? And we can create off the back of Voyant, we can pull off a report and insights to say, this is how we can. This is all the numbers behind the pretty pictures. What's brilliant about what I feel very passionately about is then running a different scenario and saying, okay, well, what if you bought a property? How does that then compare with your base plan? And we can look at that.
And it updates. Like a few years ago when we went through it, and then Tom says, okay, what's happening now? And I'm giving up practice life, really stable income, and I'm going to do a mission trip to Uganda and locum around where I'll have really inconsistent income and not know how much you're going to have month to month. And he's like, okay, cool. and then I'm going to move. And then, so obviously the plan changes, and the beauty of having somebody who is able to advise you then, okay, well, you've got this amount saved away in an ISA, that's your fallback, you can keep it there, but we got that out if we need to. It just gave me confidence to have somebody where I can make these crazy plans, and then he'll be able to tell me if I've overextended myself or whether it's a really good idea. So yeah, so it gives me confidence.
Cool. So look, guys, obviously I've been working with Connor and Mike, and I'm, I feel part of, can I say part of the pride?
You're part of the pride. Davin's going to hit that.
I was quite nice. Look, as part of kind of the offering and working with the Lions, I'm more than happy to have, if you want to pick up the question, no matter what stage of your journey that you're on, if you want to have a 15-minute call with me, please reach out. You can do so. I'll put up my contact details in a second. Go back to Connor and Mike. They can formally introduce you to me, whatever kind of best suits. If you wanted to have a one-to-one meeting, we would do it on Microsoft Teams. So it's super easy. You can do it from your own home, or you can come and see me in the office in Fleet Street. Typically, in order to get the most out of it, you probably need about an hour and a half. Okay. As an IFA, I work on a fee model. Okay. So again, exactly that you've got transparency of what you're paying for, what you get. Typically, I would charge 500 quid for that type of session. I'm basically saying it'll cost you 175 pounds to have that initial meeting. Okay. That all goes to the Lions. So I'm basically not taking a fee for that. If you then become a client, we take off the 170 pounds from the total fees that go there. It just means that the Lions can still continue to create a passive income, and you've got that there.
It goes to the Lions Trust charity, not to me and my small.
Yeah.
It goes to help you, Dan.
Yeah. But look, I'd be delighted to help in no matter whichever way. I'll put up all my contact details. Again, reach out to Connor and Mike, and they can intro you to me. And unfortunately, I can't stick around today because you've probably seen that my son, who was just brought along with me, he's not asleep, so I've got to go home. But look, thank you ever so much for listening and for your engagement. It's been a pleasure, and it's again, thank you to Connor and to Mike for today. So Best of luck with everything.